everyone, I'm back and I'm ready to talk about some books in the mid-year freakout tag. So yeah, I am back. I'm still not in a great sort of mental state and I'm still kind of getting there with everything, but very soon I will be posting a video with some updates and just letting you guys know where I've been for the last 6 weeks. But for now, we are looking at the mid-year freakout. If you are here, you probably already know what this is. And this is essentially just a little bit of a mid-year check-in. It's been going for quite a few years now. I think this is like the 5th or 6th year since the tag was created. And I love doing this tag because it just sort of lets me know where I've got to. There are a series of questions. The original tag comes with, I think it's 13 questions. And then I add 2 of my own in because of categories of reading that I have included. So my own questions that I include are my favourite audiobook and graphic novel, because I feel like they're a little bit separate to the rest of what I read. So I'm not really going to beat around the bush, I'm just going to get straight into it. And the first question is, what is the best book that you have read this year? I've gone with The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This was a fantastic book. I buddy read it with Chelsea Zhao and I absolutely loved this book. I loved everything that was in it. I thought it was so powerful. The writing was emotive and it just hit me in every single feel. And it's definitely a contemporary book that I think everybody should read, regardless of what country you're in and regardless of your stance on race or gun control or anything like that. You just need to read it. Then it was the best sequel. This was a reread for me and is my joint favourite book of the year so far, and that was Silver Silence by none other than the Nalini Singh. And I love this one because we get to see the Bear Clan for the first time. And we get to see Silva McCant, who is a character that we've kind of known a little bit about throughout the series, but we finally get to see her come into her own in this book, and I love it. That one is my favourite sequel. Next is a new release that you haven't read yet, but you want to, and for me that is The Bone Spindle by Leslie Vedder, and I really want to get to this one as soon as I can, because it just sounds so cool. It's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, but I think there's a little bit of gender bending in there, and I'm pretty sure it's also sapphic. I could be wrong. If you have read it, please let me know in the comments. I got this when it first came out in January, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but it is definitely on my plans. Before the end of this year, I will be getting this one done. We then have the book that I'm most anticipated for in the second half of the year. For this one, I have 2 books. I have The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas, who is the author of Lost in the Netherwoods and Cemetery Boys, and if you've been following this channel long enough, you know that Cemetery Boys was my book 2 for last year, so it came second in my Book of the Year competition, and I recommend this book to absolutely everyone. I love it, and I also listened to Lost in the Netherwoods last year and also really enjoyed it. So Aidan has definitely been cemented for me as a favourite author, and The Sunbearer Trials just looks and sounds amazing, so I cannot wait for that. But also we have Glow, which is book 4 in the Plated Prisoner series that was due to come out in May, got pushed back to June and has now been pushed again to July, and I am going slightly crazy waiting for it because I need to know, because the 3rd book was left on one hell of a cliffhanger. And at the time, I didn't realise it was going to be a quartet, although it is now a quintet because they've announced book 5 will be next year. So I'm slowly dying inside because I already know that I'm not going to be able to resist reading book 4, but at the same time, I'm then going to have to wait a year for book 5. So yeah. We then have the biggest disappointment, and again, if you've been on my channel long enough and if you saw my February reading wrap up, you will already know what this book is, and that is House of Sky and Breath. And I know it was heartbreaking for me because House of Earth and Blood was my favourite book of 2021. I read it twice and it destroyed me twice. House of Sky and Breath, I was bored, I was cringing throughout most of it, and I really did not like the ending. Controversial because I know loads of people have gone absolutely insane for the ending in a good way, but for me that put me off altogether, and I now don't even know if I want to continue the series. So that was a little bit gutting. Next up, we have The Biggest Surprise. And again, I have 2 books for this because it was really hard just choosing one. The first one is Everless by Sarah Holland. I read, what was the other book series of hers that I read the first one of? Oh, it's completely gone, but I've read one of her books in the past and I thought it was quite average. So picking this one up, I was thinking, oh, I don't know, it's a slightly older one, it's going to be more on the young side of young adult. But actually I had a great time with it. It had fantastic characters, brilliant world building, and I can't wait to pick up the sequel. And I think I finished this in just over a day. I loved it so much. And then the other book was Only a Monster, which I think the full title is Only a Monster Can Kill a Hero. And that was by Vanessa. And I got an arc of it. And I started it one morning because I was just lying in bed thinking I want to read, so I just started it. And 5 hours later I got out of bed to start my day because I read it in one sitting. And it was so, so good. And it had a really unique look at sort of time travel and the idea of what makes a monster and what makes a hero. And how those that are seen as being monsters can see themselves as heroes and things like that. And it really was an interesting concept. And the ending blew my mind. It's an ending that normally I hate. And I still had a little bit of a about it. But I'm excited to see how it's going to be handled in the sequel. So really can't wait for that. Next up we have a favourite new author. And this isn't an author that is new to me. I have read one of their, I started reading one of their series a couple of years ago and I wasn't a big fan. But then I started reading this series. I'm now in love and I'm considering going back and rereading the original series, seeing if maybe I prefer it now. And that is Sebastian de Castell. And yeah, I've been reading the Greatcoat series and I'm on the 3rd book now. I'm about halfway through it and there's 4 books in the series. So I'm halfway through the 3rd book and absolutely have been loving it. I don't want it to end. So now I'm considering going back and retrying Spellslinger. I may still not enjoy it, but maybe with a fresh pair of eyes and after reading more of his adult stuff, maybe I'll go back and enjoy his YA, I don't know. But it has cemented that I will definitely read more of his stuff in the future. So I would say favourite new author will be Sebastian de Castell, and I'm going to keep holding this book up because the next question also features in this series, and that is, who is my newest fictional crush? Kest. Kest in the Greatcoat series, he's stoic yet witty, and he doesn't knowingly make jokes yet has me laughing all the time. And just the way he's always like, shut up Brasty, just cracks me up. Because on the audiobook, the way that Joe Jameson does Kest's voice, he's got a Scottish accent, which we all know I die for Scottish accents, especially as I'm planning on moving there at some point. But he's just like, shut up Brasty. And he's just so good, and he's just so dry and sarcastic. I love him. He can, yeah, if he was real, I would be pursuing him. Then I'm going to keep it up again, because for the next category, which is the best new character, Brasty. So a lot of people prefer Brasty over Kest in this series. I prefer Kest as a character, but Brasty, as the series has gone on, I hated him in the first book. I thought he was an absolute obnoxious prick. But then in the second book, I thought he was fantastic. And at the end, you guys who have read it will know probably like Brasty's bastards. That's all I'm going to say. Absolutely killed me. And in this book, not this book, the 3rd book that I'm listening to now, he has slayed me so many times with his wit, and just when someone gets in the way, he's like, you're in the fucking way, move! And it just makes me laugh the way he delivers his lines. And he just has no concept of being appropriate or reading the situation. And he's just such an adorable dork. And I love him. And then the other character that I thought, I have a type for these characters. Because another character that I did not like when they first came into the series, and then it took until the final book before I suddenly fell in love with them, was Thorn from the Lunar Chronicles. Hated him at first. I thought he was like the lovable rogue, dashing captain, bit of an idiot, and all of this, and like, you know, sleeps around with all the girls and is flirty and all, and I hate that kind of character. Yet I grew to love him, and by the final book I was rooting for him so hard. I didn't care about anybody else, I just wanted him to win and to get to where he got to. So I seem to have a thing where I start off by hating the lovable idiot that everybody else seems to love, and then I have to warm up to them. But I got there in the end. We then have a book that made me cry, and I'm returning to my first book, which was The Hate You Give. I had to put this book down about 5 times to cry, especially in the first chapter when we follow her friend being shot and killed in front of her, and just the emotions and the writing. Like, Angie Thomas destroyed me, and it was like a punch to the gut, but fantastic writing. We then have the book that made me happy, and for that, I know a lot of people think this book's overrated, but it wasn't for me, and that was The Love Hypothesis. It wasn't a masterpiece by any means, but it gave me a lot of feels, it made me smile, it gave me a lot of memories from my time of being a science major at uni, and it just, I don't know, it was a really good time, and it had one of the best male lead romance characters I've ever read. And it also is the book that made me realise just how much I actually love grumpy sunshine tropes. Up until now I'd not really twigged that, but now I love grumpy sunshine, and I've started watching K-dramas, thank you, Clumsy Charlotte. And I've started watching some like K and J dramas, and I've noticed that I'm really drawn to like when it's like a nice bubbly girl and a grumpy ass guy. So this book just made me happy, and it gave me a lot of good feels. We then have the most beautiful book that I've either bought myself or been gifted, and it's one that I only bought on Saturday, so it's only been in my house for 3 days, and that is Girls of Fate and Fury by Natasha Nyan. I've got other books and I've had some special editions, and I did get Daughter of the Moon Goddess in January, that I think is hands down the most beautiful book I've ever had, but I had to sell that unfortunately because just job and stuff weren't working out. But books that I actually own now and that are still on my shelf, I think this is stunning. All of the Girls of Paper and Fire books are just so beautiful, and the writing as well as the book covers are gorgeous. And I'm so glad that this one doesn't have that stupid banner with James Patterson Presents. I'm just so glad it's nice and clean. So I've got like a pure cover, and I cannot wait to get into this. I may just have to dedicate a day to reading it because I think this book is going to annihilate me. And then I'm going to do my 2 extra categories, and then I'll do the final question. So my 2 extra categories are the best audiobook, absolutely hands down the Greatcoat series. I know that's come up a few times in this, but Jo Jameson, hands down the best narrator of all time in my opinion. And honest to God, I forget that it's one person doing all the voices. It feels like it's multiple people. And he is so good at doing all of the narrations, and he even made me like Falkio, which I didn't think would be a thing. And honestly, I don't think I would enjoy these books anywhere near as much if it wasn't for his narration. So when it comes to redoing Spellslinger, I think I'm going to do the audiobook again because he's the narrator for that as well. And then best graphic novel, I'm going with Fence Volume 1. I really enjoyed this one. It gave me a very fresh perspective. The art and everything is very different to what I normally read, because obviously I read a lot of manga, and I don't know, it just felt very fresh, very unique, and I'm looking forward to reading more. And then the final question is, what are your plans for the rest of the year? Well, I'm recording this today, and it's Tuesday today. In a week and 2 days, so in 9 days time, I'm off to London for Yalk, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Let me know in the comments if you are going, because maybe we can do a meetup. But I've got Yalk in 9 days. I've then, hopefully the following week, I'm going to Birmingham. I am about halfway through my reading goal, so I think I'm on about 38, 39 out of 80 books. So I do need to pick up the pace a little bit on that, otherwise I might struggle. But yeah, other than that, my plans for the year are just to carry on reading, carry on enjoying books, carry on with my candle business, because that did start picking up really, really well. And then in the last month, it's kind of slowed right down again. And so I've got a lot of ideas of things that I want to get in place. And I'm also in talks with a couple of book box companies now as well, to get my candles featured in a couple of book subscriptions. So watch out for that space. I'm not going to announce anything officially until it's all been confirmed, but I am in talks. And I'm hoping to make a few events before the end of the year to try and make a bit more revenue. So those are my plans for the rest of the year. And obviously to continue with BookTube and TikTok, because in the last month my TikTok went from 100 followers to I'm now at nearly 700. And my mind is blown by that. I'm just like, how? So yeah, my focus is right now on just getting my life back together, getting my brain in gear. I've got some health stuff that I'll talk about in my update video, and generally just continue as I am, because I'm actually in a reasonably good place right now. Let me know in the comments what has been your favourite book of the year so far, and what are you most looking forward to reading in the second half of the year. And thank you so much for all of you who have waited for me to come back and who have remained stuck around and who have still continued to comment on my other videos even though I've not been uploading. It does mean the world to me. I love all of you, and at least this time I said I was going away for a month and I've stuck to that. I've come back when I said I was going to come back, and I told myself that I was going to come back in time to do my mid-year Freakout tag, and that I wanted to be back on YouTube before Yauk so I could do some vlogging while I was there. And I like to think that for once in my life I've actually stuck to that deadline. So I'm going to celebrate that. Here's to the rest of the year, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will hopefully be a vlog from Yauk.